Cristiana.
¿Qué pasó?
You know, when I went through the calendar invite, it asked me for my password. It said get the password from your host. So I went through the link you sent.
Yeah,
Okay, so everybody else is gonna be like that, right?
I have no idea because it didn't ask me for a password.
Okay.
Hello, ladies. No, it shouldn't, Gabby. They all received just the link, so they should be fine.
Okay.
But why did it ask Gabi for a password?
And in
No.
the email, we don't have a password.
Anyway, Sagi, so it said to me I'm muted, but my video camera was on. So on the welcome message you send out for the next one, say, please mute yourself and turn off your video feature or something like that.
Okay.
Are you already on there?
Who joined? Somebody just joined.
We're not supposed to see each other?
Well, the video camera, yeah, no. We're supposed to turn off the video camera too.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself then. Do you see me though?
Yes, turn off your camera, your video.
Okay, there you go.
Sagi, do you have the PowerPoint that we're supposed to display on the screen?
No, Deanna, Rick has that. He should be jumping on any second now.
Okay, we've got one that's already logged in, one of our participants. Okay, great.
Hi, do you want me to log off and log back in closer to 2?
No, that's okay. You're welcome to stay. We'll be starting right at 2, so no problem.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sagi,
Yes.
Ann Hagan is asking for the meeting password.
Okay, I'm actually just sending it to you in case they needed that. I just sent it.
Okay.
See, it asked me for the meeting password too. That's what I was saying. Everybody else.
Okay, well, it's just the ones that are gonna be part of the meeting, Gabby, are the only ones that received it the way we received it. So everybody else should be fine. Diana will send that to them right now.
But they don't need the host key, right?
No, just give her the password, I believe. Well, go ahead and send both to her, Diana, just in case. Hi, Ann, I see you were able to log in.
Yes, I was. I think I think maybe there were 2 invites that went out initially. And I went to the wrong one at first, but.
Hey, Ann.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
So as everybody's coming in, I'll welcome everybody for coming in. Can everybody hear me? Just want to make sure that I'm not muted.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. So I'm going to make sure that everybody's on mute. We're going to have several people coming on and joining today. So I want to make sure that we're able to get through the presentations. And so that being said, as soon as we've got a couple of minutes here before we get started, and everybody's going to come in and they'll be muted. So thank you all for joining us. Hey, Rick. Hey, how are you? Thank you for joining us today. Can you hear me? I can. I can. You can hear me? I can hear you. I can hear you.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Rick, at some point, this is Deanna, at some point, if you could ask everyone to turn off their video also, so we're going to be, really overwhelmed with everybody on video and might not be able to see the screen when the presentation happens.
Okay. So as everybody's coming in, I'm going to ask everybody to please, if you haven't already, mute your microphone. And also, if you could please turn off your video too.
You can regulate your video so you only see one in the small left-hand corner.
Goalie makes weight loss.
Rick, can you hear me? This is Tony. Can you hear me?
No, thank you.
I can hear you.
Uh, I sent you a text. Whenever you get a moment.
Getting told that it's taking. Okay, so let me see. Just checking to make sure that everybody's coming on that's presenting. Do we have the congressman on the call yet?
No, he is not on the call, but he.
Okay, thank you. For those of you that just joined, I'm going to ask that you, if you haven't already, mute your microphones, and also if you could turn off your video too, please.
Hello? Did you go to the new one that I just emailed you? Which one did you open? The one on your calendar or the one I just emailed you? Okay. Oh, so I.
Thank you all for joining us today. We'll get started here in a few minutes. We have a couple of presenters today, our special featured guests. My name is Rick Ortiz, President and CEO of the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We're waiting for a couple of our presenters to come on, and as soon as we do that, we'll get started. And do we know if the congressman's on?
Yeah, he was having a little issue, but he's getting on now.
Thank you.
I think Suchil is having some trouble getting on as well.
Okay, I'm going to ask that one of our team members, Diana or Sagi, please contact him and try to work with him to get on.
I sent him the link. I've sent him the link.
Thank you. In the meantime, for everybody that's joined, please make sure to mute and turn off your video, mute your microphones, and thank you for joining us. My name is Rick Ortiz, President and CEO of the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome you to our webinar, Straight Talk, featuring U.S. Congressman Marc Veasey. And we'll get started here in a few minutes. I know he's working on joining us as well as featured guests as well. In the meantime, what I can tell you is for housekeeping purposes, we will be taking questions throughout the presentations. And given that we have several participants joining us today, so we're asking everybody to please use your chat function on the WebEx. As you can see on your screen, you should be able to see a little icon when you put your cursor on, Running through your screen, you should see a little bubble icon. If you click on that, it'll take you to the chat, and you can start sending questions as we're going through the presentations. And we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. And also, if we don't, and if we're not able to get to your questions, please know that we'll try to get information to you either by email or by some other option. Those of you that have just joined, please ask that you mute your microphones and your video, please. Do we know if the congressman is on?
I don't believe so, no.
Diana, do we know if Fushil's on?
He is not. He's still having issues.
Okay.
I sent him the link, log on.
He's still having issues.
I'm up now. Let me see if I can get video up.
Sushil says he's on the phone and not on WebEx, so let me work with him.
DF. I have my screen just says DF. Is that you, Deanna? That's obviously you, Deanna.
Yes, Congressman, it is.
Okay. So I'm just waiting for video. So video has been disabled for this meeting, so I don't have any control over that. So but I'm up now. So whenever y'all are up, I'm ready.
Congressman, click the camera next to the microphone at the bottom.
It says video has been disabled for this meeting. So the administrator is probably going to have to enable the video for all of us to use it.
Okay. Looks like Congressman, you joined by phone, so I think that the video is disabled for the phone version of it, so we may just have to go with the audio if that's okay.
Yeah. If you guys want me to do the audio, that's fine. Oh, there. Oh, okay. There it is. It looks like some people are starting to pop up there. I see Ann.
Congressman, could you try it one more time and see if it works?
There it is. Yep, I'm on now.
Oh, great.
Yep, my video has been enabled. I'm good.
There you go. All right, good. Do we know if Fushil's on? Okay, so go ahead and get started. We have Congressman Veasey. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. And that being said, once again, welcome to everybody.
Can you give me just a couple of seconds here?
Sure, Congressman.
Hold on 1 second.
Diana, do we know if Fushil's on?
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I believe so. I don't know if Fushil is on, but
Yeah, it looks like there are a couple of people still waiting for video. I only see you. I can't see Robert or Deanna.
we've asked everybody except presenters and administrators to turn off video and mute themselves. So,
Okay.
So that being said, Congressman, just going to go through housekeeping really quick, and then I'll go ahead and introduce you to do your presentation.
Okay.
Welcome again to everybody. Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's Straight Talk webinar featuring U.S. Congressman Marc Veasey. My name is Rick Ortiz, President and CEO of the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Welcome. During these trying times, I hope everybody's staying safe, sane. These are definitely new times. If there's ever an opportunity to learn about new things, and as the saying goes, you don't know what you don't know, and this is probably the biggest case scenario for that I've ever experienced in my life. So I thank you all for coming, and I know information is key and crucial, and we're trying the best we can as an organization to make sure that we get this information out as it's coming, especially to our small businesses, which will really be the drivers for the economic recovery that we're working on. And that being said, I want to welcome U.S. Congressman Marc Veasey, 33rd District. Thank you, Congressman, for joining us today. I know that you, as part of the 116th Congress, have been appointed and serve on the Committee on Energy and Commerce and the Committee on Small Business. So thank you so much for joining us today. I know you're going to be doing a little bit of a presentation here, and as we're going through, we'll try to get some questions in from some of the people that will be sending them through the chat. So that being said, I believe we're set to go with your presentation. So go ahead, Congressman. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Rick. Thank you very much, and just really appreciate the Chamber taking the time to do this for its members, because you're right. I mean, without small businesses, we wouldn't have a Texas economy like we've been able to enjoy the last several years here. Texas, just like any other state in the country, quite frankly, what drives commerce for all of us is small businesses. And it's great that we have the large businesses, because small businesses have an opportunity to be vendors for these larger corporations. But were it not for the small business, we wouldn't be able to enjoy the things that we have today. When I do my Marc Means Business, where I go and work at a different place once a month, and I've worked at small businesses and large businesses, and I was doing a Marc Means Business at a large delivery package company, and we only delivered 2 small businesses that day. And the delivery driver told me, he said, I have union benefits here. I have a great salary, been able to send my kids to college as a delivery truck driver. I have great health care for me and my family. But he said, if it were not for these small businesses, I wouldn't have all of this. And he said, that's something that I'll never forget, that while I'm fortunate to work here, I get to work here because of these small businesses. And so we always have to keep that in mind. And that's what Congress kept in mind when we put together these stimulus packages. And so I want to give you an overview of HR House Resolution 6201, which is the second stimulus package that Congress passed in mid-March to be able to try to help businesses and families that were going to be impacted by the sudden turn that we all faced dealing with COVID-19. The first thing that's in there that I wanted to cover was the paid sick and family leave in the First Family Act. This law requires all private businesses with 50 to 500 employees to provide emergency paid sick leave or family leave for employees affected by the coronavirus outbreak. A lot of businesses have been asking me about the employer tax credits in the Family First Act. And this law provides employers with between 50 and 500 employees with a refundable payroll tax credit to cover the costs of providing the paid sick leave and the paid FMLA to their employees.
Congressman, if I may, I have your presentation. You want me to put it on the screen for everybody?
Yeah, great.
And then just tell me when you want me to go switch screens.
Right.
Okay. Actually, I'm not the host at this time, so let me see if I can get somebody to do that for us. I'm going to ask that whoever the administrator is, if they could please upload it and put the PowerPoint presentation up.
Yeah, and as he puts that up, I don't mind continuing to go along. If that's, do you think I should go ahead and keep, so we just don't have a pause?
Sure, please go ahead.
Okay, I'll do that. And so that was, I just went over a couple of the details that was in the second piece of legislation that we passed. And of course, now everyone has been asking about the third piece of legislation that we passed, which is known as the CARES Act. That was House Resolution 748, the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, again, also known as CARES. And that was the third stimulus package that was signed by the president. And I want everybody to know, too, that we did pass that particular piece of legislation unanimously. There was no one that voted against it. There was a lot of negotiation back and forth before we finally were able to agree on a package, Democrat and Republicans, on how we should move the country forward with this particular stimulus legislation. And we wanted to make sure that we put enough focus on individuals and small businesses. We know that a lot of these larger businesses will have the money that they need, and they'll have the currency that they need in order to be able to get through these hard times, but it will be much harder on small businesses. And that was really the holdup between Democrats and Republicans on how much we should do for small businesses. Nancy Pelosi, our Speaker of the House, wanted to push for us to have more protection in there, again, for individuals and small businesses. And so that's what we ended up doing. This third stimulus package, the bill establishes a new guaranteed loan program at SBA for small businesses to cover payroll during the immediate crisis. Support is $340 billion in 100% guaranteed, low interest, no fee loans up to $10 million with repayments deferred for up to 6 months. And I already have talked to some small businesses that are going through the process and are trying to, oh, there we go. There's some more people joining on video there that are going through the process and going through these packages, some successfully. And we ask people that if they are having some trouble going, figuring this out, to call us so we can figure out who the best person is at SBA to help them work through a lot of these programs. And this forgives up to 100% of the loan if the borrower has retained the same number of employees as they had when they received the loan. And so I think that that's key for small businesses to understand, is that they can get this money and it will be in the form of a grant, and they don't have to repay it as long as they don't let anybody on. And hey, Rick, I just lost you. I just lost the video there, but I'm going to keep moving there. Oh, there we go. The package is actually coming across now. The emergency economic injury grant, that was in the third package. And I'll go ahead and let Deanna go ahead and go to that slide, so that way that people can sort of read along there. And as I sort of add in a few extra notes. There we go. The emergency economic injury grant in the third package, again, creates a $10 billion grant program for small businesses that do not qualify for economic injury disaster loans, leveraging SBA's Office of Disaster Assistance and Infrastructure to provide small businesses with quick, much needed capital. Small businesses, cooperative ESOPs, private nonprofits, independent contractors, and the self-employed would be eligible to receive up to $10,000 to cover immediate payroll, mortgage, rent, and other operating expenses while waiting for additional relief to be processed. And again, if people are having trouble leveraging any of these programs through the SBA, call our office. We work very closely with SBA on all of their programs, even before COVID-19. And they have people there that can help answer questions on why this is, or why a person, was not given help, or why this is not working out the way that the constituent would like for it to be worked out. We ask people to reach out to us, preferably through email right now, as our offices have personnel, as we're trying to practice social distancing and we're teleworking. But if people do call and they don't email, we are checking the voicemails. And so, we're asking people again to call us if they're having trouble with the SBA. But hopefully you won't, and you'll be able to take advantage of, again, things like this, the economic injury grant that was put into the third package. And then the next is,
if I may just quickly ask, what email address do you recommend that they reach out to you so that we could distribute that to everybody?
the best email address is to send it to Ann. And everybody on here knows Ann. You can address any concerns that you have to me in the body of the email. But if you will email Ann at ANNE, it's Ann with an E, .Hagan, and that's spelled HAGAN, at mail.house.gov.
Thank you.
And if we could please go to the small business debt relief program package. This program is going to provide immediate relief to small businesses with non-disaster SBA loans, 7A, 504, and microloans. And under this program, SBA will cover all loan payments on these SBA loans, including principal, interest, and fees for 6 months. This relief will also be available to new borrowers who take out loans within 6 months of the president signing the bill into law. And Rick, there's another area that I didn't mention that I wanted to also, a lot of people have been asking about our nonprofits. I know that you probably have some nonprofits that are members of the chamber, as well as you being a nonprofit. There are loans, again, that are going to be available to nonprofits as well that need additional help at, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say it's a 2.75% interest rate for these small business, for these nonprofits that find themselves underwater all of a sudden because of what's happening with COVID-19. And again, reach out to the SBA about all of these programs. And if you have any trouble reaching the SBA, or you feel that there's some sort of an issue, call us so we can help cut through a lot of this red tape and get everybody back to, some level of just being able to be operating. I know that it's going to be tough for the next, few months here at least. We don't know how long this virus is going to take. There have been many estimates on how long it may take for the virus to run its course, and estimates on how long it could take to actually come up with a vaccine. And I think also another thing that's been discussed too is that as it gets warmer and we move into the summer months, that the virus could take some sort of a it could go where it's not, it could become not as active as it is right now, and that we could see businesses and restaurants and what have you reopen, but then we may have to prepare ourselves and get into a posture to where when the winter months come back that we end up having to go back through this. And so I think that it's important that we do everything we can to help small businesses during this time to be able to get ready for what's going to be the new normal, at least for the time being, as we try to deal with COVID-19. And then also, I want to encourage everyone that's on the call too, as we get ready to work on a fourth stimulus package, which I believe that we will end up passing one probably sometime maybe in the summer or September, to encourage everyone to think about just some of the things that we're going to talk about here today and what may be missing. Like, what else is there that the federal government can do or that can help assist small businesses? What else needs to be in there that can really help small businesses thrive and be able to come out on the other side of this still open, still functional, still serving the community, still aiding the Texas economy and helping make our state great. And so I just want to sort of close with that and encourage everybody to be thinking about that. And again, email us, go on our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and let us know about some of these ideas. A lot of what was put in this third package was hearing from business owners in Texas and in other states around the country, where constituents and business owners called in directly to their members of Congress and their senators to say, hey, here's what's going on. And people were able to compile enough of that information and see that there were a lot of common concerns that people had around the country. And it was really the formation of much of what's in this bill. And so please don't be shy to ask to make a suggestion to me about what needs to be in there. These suggestions I think are going to be important, not just for the fourth package, for any package that we end up passing. And my personal opinion is that after we do get on the other side of this, depending on how long it ends up lasting, that we'll probably have we'll have to have some sort of post-recovery package for people that are trying to figure out ways how they're going to, catch up on mortgages and how they're going to catch up on rents and what have you. Again, as we seek a way how to get our economy back to normal, as we experience record high unemployment rates in the country. A lot of people think that our unemployment rate, if it already hasn't, that it could end up being higher than the Great Depression, which was at around a 25% unemployment rate. But how we're going to come out on the other side of this successful. So, Rick, I turn it back over to you. And again, thank you for serving the clients of the Dallas Hispanic Chamber well, and particularly during this time when people have a lot of answers, or when people have a lot of questions and need answers to how we're going to get this thing turned around and how businesses are going to stay afloat. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. I do have a quick question for you regarding you mentioned nonprofits. I believe that at this time, chambers were not included in the third package at 501c6s. I'm not sure if that's something that will be considered for changes or down the road, as obviously organizations like the chambers, all the chambers that we know of are, we're all working really hard to try to make sure that we keep these businesses in the best position possible during these times. And so I think that right now it's just 501c3s and I'm not sure if there's any other 501s. I'll have to go back and look at that. But thank you for that information. That's very helpful. And I believe we have one presentation now coming up from Sushil Kumar, correct? And I'm not sure if he's ready to go, and if so, if we got his presentation queued up as well.
Hi, Rico, can you hear me?
We can.
Congressman, good afternoon.
Thank you. Great to hear from you.
Great to hear you, sir. Appreciate it. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem.
My name is Sushil Kumar. I'm with the Office of Disaster Assistance. To put it very bluntly, let me say that we have a $2 million maximum statutory amount for disaster loans. No fees, no points, no closing costs, no prepayment penalty. The last update we got was that no fees went to $100 UCC1 filing. That's the only fee that's being charged by the SBA and being passed on from the states on to the specificity of the borrower. Do I have control over the slide? Is that correct, or someone helping me with it?
Someone's helping you with it. So just let us know which one, when you want.
I appreciate it. Let's go to the next slide, please. The next slide talks about Administrator Carranza, who was the one that signed off on the state disaster declaration that just made it possible for businesses of all sizes, private nonprofits, to seek disaster assistance on their behalf. Next, please. It's basically a working capital loan. So for those folks who have banking relationships, the definition of working capital is current assets minus current liabilities equals a working capital. And to put it in summation, most of you have a working capital requirement that your banks have listed on your loan covenants. And chances are, as a result of this unprecedented economic disruption, that number has dropped below 1, which basically means technically your company as it stands may be or in the process of becoming insolvent. So it's a great idea to apply with us. It's a great idea to get the assistance that you need. When you're approved, we are putting into your bank account within a few days of approval 6 months worth of working capital, and we have streamlined our application, and I'll go over it with you momentarily. Next slide, please. Some examples of eligible industries: hotels, recreational facilities, boats, manufacturers, so on and so forth. On the application, it specifically asks for a physical address. A PO box should not be put in that specific column where it says PO box. Next, please.
So Sheila, I have a quick question for you. If we have some questions that are coming from us, from our participants, do you want me to wait, or do you want me to just ask them as we're going through this?
Absolutely, ask away, sir, because the quicker we answer them, probably their appetite is vetted.
Okay, and I don't know if this is something that you are touching on. Or one of the questions is, do we have to have a certain credit score in order to be approved?
I don't have that number, but I've been told that the credit score number has been lowered as a result of the new streamlining.
Okay, and then one other question: if the business is no longer able to support payroll after the 8 weeks immediately following issuance of the loan and lays off workers at this point, is the business still eligible for loan forgiveness?
That is a PPP question, and that PPP question I will not be able to answer only because we don't have any guidance yet. So
Okay.
that is on the stimulus package that came out.
Okay, so
There are a couple of questions that I see on the chat screen, which we'll be covering momentarily. The question that Felix asked was, what is the interest rate and payment terms? Felix, take a look at the slide. You can see it very clearly. 375 for small businesses. The definition of your small business is when you go to the size standard hyperlink. The amortization is a maximum 30 years. All loans are being made at the 30-year term. Every single one of them. So that we're maximizing cash flow, so that the business owner can take the time not only to recover, because there's a deferment, which I'll get into the next slide, for 12 months, but the cash flow portion is maximized. What can you use this for? It's basically payroll costs, including sick leave, accounts payable, fixed debts, material costs, rent or mortgage payments, pre-existing debt, and these loans are not meant to replace lost sales or for expansion. Next, please. Is there a way to maximize this particular screen?
I'm going to ask that the administrator please click on the slide presentation.
Okay. I guess that's only capturing a portion, I guess. So if the whole slide could be captured, that'd be great. If not, I'll work with what we have, not an issue. Fair enough. Where do you apply? COVID-19 relief.sba.gov. That's where you would go to. 6 months worth of working capital deposited up for approval. No real estate collateral for under $500,000. A general UCC1 filing on business assets. Mention the $100 UCC1 fee. Briefly mention that your first payment is due 12 months from now. What that basically means is the opportunity for the economy to recover its traction. That's when your first payment comes due. There is no obligation to take the loan if offered. And if you have an existing disaster loan, which unfortunately Texas has its share of disasters, that should not stop you from applying, because that is not a reason for not applying. Next slide, please. A new feature that we have brought up as a part of the streamlining this past Monday is that there's a question at the very end of the application process where they ask you a question whether you would like an advance of up to $10,000. If the answer is yes, as soon as you file within 3 to 5 business days, I'm saying 7. The website says 3. I'd like to manage expectations and share with you that given this unprecedented level of application volume, you give the system the opportunity for it to be funded. It's funded into your bank account within 3 to 5 business days. I'll just go out and say 7 for the purposes of under promising and over delivering. If for some reason you're denied for the loan, you're not required to repay the advance. If you've already submitted your application, for those folks on the call, and you did this on Sunday or before, please come back, reapply using the streamlined application, and check the box if you're interested in the advance. If you're not interested in the advance, don't reapply. And no documents are required for the new streamlined process, period. We'll get into that momentarily. Next, please. Cannot use it to refinance long-term debt. This is a working capital loan. So pay your people, pay your vendors. Whether you owe Acme Company or you owe your payroll, whatever is on your schedule of liabilities. I'm sure you folks know what that is. It's basically a description of who you owe, when you owe, how much you owe. If there's a purchase money security interest against your accounts payable, and whether you're current on it or not, and your monthly payment towards it. So that's what this is for. It's not to take the money and pay off more expensive debt. Paying off any other loans, as it says in bullet point number 2. Paying off IRS debt, that's a no-no. And if you're past due in your IRS debt, please make sure that you have a curative statement to applying with us. Next, please. Rico, this goes to the heart of your question earlier on. Credit history. If you pay your bills on time for the most part, and you have sufficient cash flow, well, for the most part, the loan is yours. If you have current delinquency, please make sure that you cure it. If you have a current IRS debt that is past due, please make sure you cure it. Next slide, please. That is our website, covid19relief.sba.gov. When you click on it, guess what shows up? The next slide is, that's what you see. It's a streamlined 5-page application. The very first slide that you see lists the different company options that you are. In other words, are you a business owner that is less than 500 employees? Are you a business with more than 500 employees? Are you a sole prop? Are you a contractor? Are you an ESOP? Are you a tribal concern? Or are you a nonprofit, which is the very last button? Next slide, please. On that first page, the certifications, I couldn't fit it onto one page, so I broke it up. On that first page, you got the choice to pick between the 8 buttons and then certify that you're not involved in any one of these illegal activities. And then the slide will take you on to the business information piece. Next, please. A little bit more detail. Applicants are eligible up to $10,000. No documents required. The loan advance doesn't have to be paid back. And it's put in your bank account within 3 business days. Just want to reemphasize that because it's meant to provide appropriate payroll pressure relief. Next, please. 800-659-2955 is our phone number. These presentations, from what I understand, Diana and Rico will be sharing with the masses. Was that a correct understanding?
That's correct, yes.
Fair enough, sir. And then the email address is disastercustomerservice@sba.gov. Next slide, please. Please be mindful. I myself, as an SBA employee, was solicited, and guess what? It was totally a scam. So please be careful. For folks who are very familiar with Twitter, go to SBA. Recent developments and phenomenons that you may be potentially experiencing. Be careful of what you click on and what information you share, just to be on the safe side. Should I stop and ask for questions right about now, Rico?
Yeah, this would be a good time to do that. And going back to the scams and the phishing and hacks, is there anything that they can look for? Is there something consistent that the SBA, when they do send out stuff, so that they know that it's an SBA email? This is something you do or you don't do, so that it's a little more of a safe email to open.
A lot of times I have found in my experience that the fonts are not identical. A lot of times I find that it's illegible. Some things are certainly up top a certain way. When you come down, it's another way. There's no consistency in the actual format. That's what I've been able to tell. Rest of it, I'm going to provide guidance by asking folks to go to sba.gov and look for scams, phishing, and hacks. There's considerable more language that you can take a look at.
Okay. I've got a couple more questions, and you could probably see these on the chat screen. I think this question really applies. Can you apply for any and all of these available opportunities through the SBA for businesses, or are you prevented from applying for one if you apply for another?
Let me answer it in a more open-ended stance, okay? The stimulus package is really starting to roll out tomorrow, okay? And the congressman probably is much more well-versed than I am on the details. The only item that I'll share is that you cannot dip into both programs for the purposes of paying the same bill. For example, you go to Triple P. It's very specific to payroll, very specific to bringing back a certain number of employees and paying rent and a mortgage. Well, guess what? Our working capital is not for 8 weeks, it's for the longer term. So to come back to apply with us to pay for the same sums of money for the same time period, for the same sets of people, that's a no-no. But I have not seen any language as of today that prevents you from applying for the program. And I'll leave it up to the congressman perhaps to shed more light on it. Is this a good time for him to join us?
Congressman?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Is this possibly a good time for you to shed more light on the PP side of the fence, sir?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I was, yeah. And first of all, let me just say that I thought that was a really great presentation. There are some things in there that I learned, particularly about the phishing and the hackers that I don't think that I was aware of. I didn't know. I mean, that I guess you always have to be worried about that, but I didn't know that they were already on top of this. So yeah, especially with some of the issues that we had during the last presidential campaign, I had no idea that they were already on top of that like that. That is that's really that's scary actually, that they were able to get around to it that fast. And I'm sorry, you wanted me to go over which one now?
The Triple P very specifically, so that people have a understanding of what it might be more consequential to hear from you. All I said was it starts tomorrow. Guidance will be received from the Treasury, and that no duplication of benefits is allowed, so on and so forth. I laid the groundwork for you to pick up the pieces from there, sir.
Okay, all right. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can. You would just give me 1 second here.
While he's looking for that, Sushil, I'll just, for clarification, what you're saying is you can apply for both just as long as it doesn't go to the same debt.
That's exactly what I'm saying, sir. And there is one that I saw from Felix to everyone, are the fees paid by the SBA during the first 6 months tagged on to the loan at the end. There are no fees during the 6 months. It will be tacked on. The only fee that you pay up front is $100.
There's one other question I noticed that too, that we saw this the other day as well, and maybe there could be a little clarity on it, and that's for companies that are foreign owned and they have locations here in the U.S. with U.S. staff working here for them. Are those companies in some way, shape, or form eligible to apply for any of this that you presented today? And if so, what would be the requirements for them?
You know, I'll answer the question with a blanket statement. I had one pretty much summarize it for me. The owner did not have a social security number, but he was properly incorporated in the state of California. The question that was posed to me was, is this corporation eligible? Yes. So similar to that example, in Texas, I am sure there's a considerable number of examples where that fits that paradigm. And my answer to that would be yes. And I got this answer by the attorneys up in Dallas, Fort Worth. So very confident at the veracity of the information that they provided to me.
Okay. Yeah. No. Oh, good. Good. Okay. So the PPP, and I do have some information on that. It authorizes up to $349 billion in forgivable loans, again, to small businesses during this COVID crisis. And all the loan terms are going to be the same for everyone. And so I think that that's really important because people have been, I know that I've gotten questions sent to me on personal social media and what have you about loan terms, just because people are still trying to process a lot of these. The loan proceeds are used to cover payroll costs, most mortgage interest, rent, and utility costs over the 8-week period after the loan is made. And also, again, I talked a little bit earlier about employee and compensation levels being maintained to make sure that these loans stay forgivable. Payroll costs are going to be capped at $100,000 on an individual basis for each employees. And due to likely high subscription, it's anticipated that not more than 25% of the forgiven amount may be for non-payroll costs, and loan payments can be deferred for 6 months. And people can go ahead and start applying for these April 3rd. And again, independent contractors, sole proprietors can apply to obtain small businesses and sole proprietorships can apply for and receive loans to cover their payroll and certain other expenses through existing SBA lenders. And again, the same thing with our independent contractors and self-employed. Other regulated lenders will be available to make these loans as soon as they are approved and enrolled in the program. And people have been asking where they can apply. I'm glad that was mentioned a little bit earlier. If people go to SBA.gov, they can find a list of SBA lenders. So again, that should be able to walk them through this. And I know that that's some of the lenders for them that this is new, and just want to remind everyone of that also, that I think the lenders are putting things in place and what have you to be able to move through this as expeditiously as possible. And so want to ask everybody to please have patience with these lenders as they work through this as well. Who can apply? Businesses, nonprofits, veterans organizations, tribal businesses. Again, I mentioned sole proprietorships and self-employed individuals, independent contractors, and people with 500 employees or less are able to apply. And we want for people, again, to take advantage of these programs. It's going to be very critical as we move through this period of COVID-19. which is again going to be very taxing and difficult and different for everyone in this economy. I think no matter where you sit, but we want to make sure that our small businesses are protected as much as they possibly can be. You when you apply, you're going to need to complete the PPP loan application and submit the application with the required documentation to these approved lenders to process your application. And the key deadline there is June 30th, 2020. So remember that you're going to need to submit the required documentation to an approved lender by June 30th, 2020. You're going to be asked for, the lender is going to ask you for payroll documentation as well. And they're going to be waiving the SBA requirement that you obtain some or all the loan funds from other sources, which is something that is my understanding that businesses will have to do when they normally go through SBA. But for this time around, that a lot of those things are going to be waived for this particular process. And so there is a sheet that I want to encourage everyone to take advantage of, because it has a lot of the Q&A on here about the PPP. And you can find that at home.treasury.gov. home.treasury.gov to find out more about the PPP program and the information that's available to borrowers during COVID-19.
And prior to finishing up my presentation, may I make a blanket statement, Congressman Enrico?
Yeah, please.
I am hearing from us, I'm covering most of Texas and all of Louisiana and some parts of Southern California. So I'm hearing this consistently across these 3 different geographic areas, that lenders are asking borrowers to hurry up and apply with the notion that somehow the funds are going to run out. Let me repeat that. Somehow they're being asked to rush to apply because funds are going to run out. Congressman, do you want to shed light on it?
Yeah, no. I mean, we put enough money in there to try to help as many businesses as possible, and so we want people to apply. I think that there's enough money for everyone in there to be able to get that. I mean, the bill that we passed, I think that people forget, it was about 10% of our country's GDP, and it helped with a variety of different things. But there's enough there's enough money in here to help everybody. But people do need to be able to follow the rules and have the documentation and understand that it is first, as they process these loans, that it's going to be done in the order in which they were received. And so being able to pull your paperwork together in an efficient manner and being able to work with these lenders and getting through the process is really the key to all of this. And so, and again, I want to remind everybody too that there is more than likely going to be a 4th package. We're already talking about working on a 4th package right now in DC. We're already in the beginning stages of that and trying to work with the minority party in the House and the Republicans who are in the majority in the Senate and the White House on some sort of an agreement now versus later. So as unemployment numbers mount, and there's even more pressure put on businesses, that they will be able to get further relief as we continue to go through this crisis.
And one last point on this bullet point, the plan is being rolled out as of tomorrow. There is no sense of rush to go do things. There is no deadline for tomorrow. It starts rolling out tomorrow. Exactly, right?
Right, exactly. It starts rolling out. That is, I'm glad you mentioned that. It starts rolling out tomorrow. Yeah, you don't have to go in and try to put anything in today, because it's not going to matter, because it starts tomorrow. But I would encourage everyone that needs to get this done to obviously, get it done as quickly as possible, with the understanding is that they have to do this in a fair manner, and they're going to do it based on who sends their applications in first. And then I also would like to remind everyone too that we have actually put together a small business guide that you can find on our website at vc.house.gov, veasey.house.gov. And we're working on getting the small business guide put into Espanol as well, so people can access that for as well. But we have a coronavirus information page, and if you go on my site, you can see that. And as we get updated information, and as things change, and as key rules change, and as we work through all of these things, we're going to try to update the site as quickly as possible, because we know that people are going to have a lot of questions, that people will hear things on the news as it relates to not just help for small businesses, but I know the rule changes. We got so many calls about who was going to be eligible to receive checks from the Treasury. And of course, because of the concerns and the pushback from Democrats in the House, we were able to get a lot of those rules changed to where people that were on the verge of not receiving a check, now they are going to be receiving those checks. And so there are changes that do occur occasionally as it relates to these programs and how they're implemented. And as we get those, we will put them on the site just so people can have up-to-date information. And I know the SBA, if there are any sorts of changes too, that on their website, that they will have any sort of changes, or if there are if there's any sort of additional documentation or whatever it may happen to be, that they'll update their site as well, just so constituents can have those real-time changes as they occur, and are understood, to just make this process more easier.
Thank you, Congressman, and thank you, Sushil, for all that great information. And it looks like a lot of these questions we're seeing that are very specific to the forms on the PPP and such. Those are probably answers that we're all going to need. We're all having questions for, and I guess to go look those up as that rolls out tomorrow. Correct? That's the best thing we can do. Yeah. Okay. Congressman,
Quick.
Go ahead.
Couple of quick comments. Fixed interest rates for all the loans. Funds cannot be used to pay outstanding IRS liabilities. These loans are meant for not only the gig economy, sole proprietors, contractors, and private nonprofits. I think that I just covered 4 questions with my remarks.
Yes. And then I saw an interesting question, Congressman. It says, is Congress working on any policies or anything that would encourage scientific biomedical businesses to pursue vaccine or treatment for COVID-19?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that process works through the FDA, but I do know that we are trying to, with urgency, try to come up with something that can treat COVID-19. One of the early, and I actually had sent a letter to the FDA about the hydroxychloroquine. Now, you've heard about it a lot on the news now, but I was the first member of Congress that sent a letter with one of my colleagues, Earl Perlmutter, on people being able to possibly be approved to use hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19. Right now, that drug, previously that drug was only approved for certain people that had arthritis and lupus, but now we think that we have seen some improvements through people taking this particular drug. It's still not anything that is 100%. I don't want to leave anyone with that impression, but we do think that based on some smaller samplings, that this could help improve the quality of life for patients that may have been infected with COVID-19, and there will be other drugs as well and other vaccines that people are working on that you're going to hear about over the coming weeks. And I think that it's important for people to know that the process of getting one of those approved for mass distribution is generally a little over a year once they come up with something, because you have to test people to make sure that you're not going to make the situation worse, and people have to be put into control groups and what have you to see if the drug is effective, and again to make sure that it's not dangerous. So there are these steps that have to be taken before a new vaccine can usually make the market, and it generally is about a year as the FDA goes through that process. So just something for people to keep in mind. I don't want people to think that there's going to be some sort of miracle treatment for COVID-19 in the next 2 or 3 months. There certainly could be, but the likelihood of that, based on everything that I've seen and from the briefings that I've been in, I would say that that's probably not going to be the case.
Okay. Well, thank you both for your presentations. Very great, very good information. We look forward to learning more as we go through these trying times. And I do want to mention to everybody that we will try to get all this information out to everybody, the presentations included, and we'll make them available as well on our website. We have a COVID-19 resource and information page as well, so that you can go there and we'll send that information to you. And we have 2 more that we're working on for next week as far as webinars to continue to bring information. You mentioned your counterparts in the Senate, Congressman, and it looks like we're probably going to have a webinar next week to learn a little bit about that side of it with Senator John Cornyn. And then looks like towards the latter part of the week next week, we're probably going to be bringing in Parkland as well, who's on the front lines, as we all know. So thank you both again for coming and providing this great information and for making yourselves available. And I hope that you and your families and all your loved ones are staying safe and continue to stay safe. And Congressman, thank you for all you're doing and for your leadership. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Rick. Appreciate everything that the chamber is doing to keep small businesses informed, your membership informed during this time period. You're really helping people, because I know for a fact that people have a lot of questions right now and they're looking for answers. So thank you.
Thank you. And so quickly, I just want to thank our sponsors today. I didn't get a chance to mention them up front. Encore sponsoring today's webinar, as well as the Dallas County Community College District, who's our platform sponsor. Apologize for all the glitches. We're working through those as we do these one by one, and knowing that we're trying to figure out, because there's a lot of people that are really wanting to get information. So we're seeing that these are getting bigger. And so the platform that's being provided by Dallas County Community College District, we're working and learning how to use it. So we apologize again for the glitches. We'll get better as we go through this. Thank you all, and I hope you all have a good rest of the day.
Thank you,
everybody. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
response to a recent rule Hyundai Assurance. When you buy or lease a new Hyundai, now legal 30, they'll cover your payments for up to 6 months and eventually lose your job this year due to COVID-19. And for current Hyundai owners financing through Hyundai Car Finance, we have a program to protect you too. Hyundai Assurance. Find out more at HyundaiUSA.com/.
There are so many ways to save at Macy's now through Sunday. It's our lowest prices of the season on first-tier mattresses. Buy 2 or more pairs of women's shoes, get 40% off, plus 35 to 60% off buying jewelry at Macy's.com. And now Starter Points members earn on every purchase except gift card services and fees.
Donate them for the 100% whole grain oats. Donate them because oats can help lower cholesterol. Eat them for her. Lance and Dexter. He loves shaking for a bacon style new system. Little bear. That's the reason Blue is. This is another one of those. What do you mean you don't have a tape situation? So we went down and I talked to Schmitz. Try this. What's going on? I noticed you wearing the white at the top of your first hour, and I just immediately noticed them. And I love that you had the white. It's a really classic crisp white, but it gives you a little bit of that extra with the embroidery. So we look at them and immediately you and I both are in love with them. So when you put them on, forward collision warning, emergency braking assist. Standard on Sportage, Telluride, Sorento SX. We're offering a 30 days for payment. This sequence is to let that sweet and spicy fantastic. Mango habanero class. Yes. Get free delivery for a limited time at Wingstop.com.
Have you got the money yet? Get a couple of applications today because I wanted to really, I did one for the art and one for the real estate. Yeah. I'll see what we get. All I can say is no, that's all I know. And, I did the unemployment thing. That's 600. Between all of it, something got to come through. Huh? Okay. Right, how you doing with the men's shelter in place? I know I am, because it's another month, Gerald, another whole month. Oh, shit.